Hey everybody, we are back, and this time we have our guest Amy Chinian. And what she does is pretty interesting because she came up with this thing called My Hair Helpers. And it actually deals with lice. And if you have children, you know lice and you know what the struggle with it and the hassle of having to deal with that type of situation. And Amy has some solutions. So let's talk to Amy and see what she's got. Welcome to the show, Amy. How are you doing today?
Well, good morning. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I
Love
think
what I
one of,
do. I
huh?
absolutely love what I do. I love helping families
I
because
love
this
that.
is a problem that really affects everybody.
It really
Um,
does. And it's not specific to age, which is kind of what people sometimes think if you have lice that you only get it if you're like a child, kind of like chicken pox. But that child brings it in your house and you can get it and everybody else can get it.
so true. So I've had newborn babies and I've had 99-year-old grandmas. It's lice is no respecter of persons.
Yeah,
It's an equal opportunity bug.
it is. Now, generally, how do people get lice?
So 99% of lice is only head to head contact. There's a lot of misinformation out there, which is something interesting that I learned when I started my company 17 years ago. I was reading up and studying lice. I said, wow, people go through all this trouble to clean their homes and to, disinfect everything. But the truth is that where there's no blood, there's no lice. They don't live in linens. They don't live in those places. It is spread head to head. So that always sets people a little free in their mind. As long as we check everybody's head, then you're good.
I remember the lice checks in school, and they would come in and they
Mm-hmm.
would just sit there and go through your head, and it actually was kind of relaxing. It was not something I minded when I was in school. Now the fluoride treatments were a different story, but the
Right.
lice treatments and the lice searching really wasn't that bad. But I know that I'm really glad I never had it.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, when my kids gave me lice years ago, I had never had a lice check in school. I didn't grow up with lice like a lot of people. They understand because they had regular lice checks. Well, here I was, a 43-year-old woman with my first case of lice. And I hear that a lot. Oh my gosh, I've never had this. Now I'm a mom and I got it. So I was pregnant with my fifth child, and this was in 2000, um, in the year 2000. And I was scratching my head, and it was like this fierce itch. It's like an itch like no other. I mean, these little creepies can create the worst itch. And I had my girlfriend look at my hair, and she said, lo and behold, you have lice. I'm like, what? Like, there's something living in my hair. Okay. Can you imagine a bug living on you and living in your hair? It's the most shocking revelation. And especially, I was like 9 months pregnant, ready to pop. So I tried myself. I went to the pharmacy, got, over the counter products, which now we know they don't work. The lice are immune to them. They're called perithrums. They're toxic chemicals. They honestly don't work, but they take up most of the shelf space at the pharmacies and the stores. So people, they try that first, and lo and behold, then they end up with me. After they've given everything a try, they'll come to the specialist. But the thing is that back then there was only one company in LA. So I found this lady to come to my house, and she deloused my whole family, and it was a pretty penny. But you know something? At that point you just want it out. You don't really care about the cost sometimes when there's something that's so traumatic. And that was a little seed that was planted. And years later, 12 years later, the whole lice subject at the school was still floating around, and people were coming to the woman with 5 kids. What do you do? What do I do? And I realized that I needed to learn more about this so I could be a help to families. So what I did was I read books. I read a book called Lice Advice by my friend Katie Shepard. She's my friend now. And I watched YouTube videos, and I said, wow, there's a ton of misinformation about this bug. Like nobody understands it and no one knows what to do. And I had this aha moment. This lady came to our school, a private school, and she was checking the hair. She was from another company. And I remember the principal saying to me, wow, this is so expensive. And I watched this lady and I had this moment where I said, I heard a voice, I believe it was God's voice, say, you can do this. And I found a special niche. Now, there's no one to teach you how to do this. When you find something that you're interested in, and my goal was always to help people because I love helping people, but there was no training. There was nothing. So I trained myself and I bought a red picnic basket for $1 at a garage sale. And my husband ordered products. I put all the products in my little red picnic basket. But lo and behold, did I know he was going to lose his entire company. So my husband, who had a multi-million-dollar car company that he started with his own bare hands, it was called United States Auto Security. He had a beautiful building in Venice. He had 113 people working for him. And during the recession, he lost his entire company. And so what I had started as a hobby became, oh my gosh, I have to support my family. And I had no idea, Emma, what I was doing. And so what happened is I didn't even have money for a business card, a logo, nothing. I started word of mouth, going home to home, and literally watched all of our finances, everything crumble, like everything. We were on unemployment to pay for our food, and we had to move into like 700 square foot apartment with 7 of us. And the whole thing was such a ginormous shift that I didn't even have time to think. And when you're going through something like that, you don't want it to affect your family. So you try to stay positive. And so, of all places, I ended up in Calabasas. You know what Calabasas is known for? It's very affluent. So I end up not two nickels to rub together, and I'm in this affluent city, Calabasas, living in 700 square feet with my whole entire family. And the reason we moved up there is because our son got a scholarship to a college prep school called Oaks Christian. So I would drop him off in the front of the school and I would go to the food bank in the back. And he'd say, Mommy, this is a little bit embarrassing. I said, honey, nobody knows, it's okay. And I just stayed positive because when you have a solid foundation, a solid faith, I don't know what the listeners' beliefs are, but when you have a faith in God, you know that He's going to pull you through it. And I have a saying, work like it depends on you and pray like it depends on God, because you can't stop. You have to persevere. So my goal at the time was just to support my family. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but I started going home to home with my little red picnic basket. And I ended up going into some of the biggest reality star hosts that you can imagine. And I ended up going to like the lowest, most scary places in LA. It's because lice is no respecter of persons. And so I ended up going all these places. In one day, I would go to 6 homes. It was back-breaking work. And I had my family to feed. And, you know, my path has been interesting. It's been hard. I never gave up. I opened up my first salon in Thousand Oaks. I found a cute little room and I opened up my first location. And then I saw that it was successful. It took me a couple years, so I opened up another location. And now I have 6 locations from my little red picnic basket. So it's been a journey. I've private labeled my products. Now I have an Amazon store, Shopify store. I sell my products in all of my salons. Um, so that's my story of perseverance and not giving up, keeping your joy through the trial. I try to stay joyful in the journey because I'm not there yet. And every day it's, something when you have your own business. But my advice to people is find a niche, find something that you can become an expert in. Little did I know it would be head lice. Okay. Find a niche and become the expert, and people will seek you out. Your value will become greater. You will be sought out and needed. So now I'm a lice expert. So last year, I went to a lice conference, believe it or not. It was the first one of its kind. And it was in Boston. My husband said, let's go. He's from Boston. I said, wow, okay. So I got to meet the lady who wrote the book Lice Advice. Her name's Katie Shepard. She's the world expert in lice. And I walked up to her and I said, Katie, I need to tell you my story. And I told her about when I was pregnant and I had lice and how I'd started my company and we lost everything. And I read her book. I couldn't even afford her classes. I had to just close the book up and say, well, I guess I'm ready to go. And when I told her now I have 6 locations, we got tears in our eyes. I hugged her and now she's a good friend. But, it's like it made a full circle. Um, it's been an interesting journey. It's been fun.
Well, that's an amazing story, and I love that you were able to pursue something because I think a lot of people they don't believe that they can be their own business. They can't do this because they don't have tons of money. But you don't necessarily need tons of money to be able to be successful. And sometimes it's the people that have start with, like you said, a little red box, and you have to think outside the box. So along the way, I think one of the biggest things, especially if you're selling something, is finding a product that you can make and have it affordable.
Uh-huh.
What was some of the biggest challenges you had starting this thing up?
Well, honestly, we had not only did we not have money, we owed millions of dollars. I would have to go to court with my husband, and we didn't declare bankruptcy, but we were like flat broke, and that's not happened to me ever in my life. Um, so that was its own challenge. But when you're in that situation, like I said, if you find a skill and a talent that you can use that skill and talent. I don't care if you have to go work for somebody else first and learn more, and then start your own. It can be a simple business card. Then it can be eventually you make money. Then it's maybe a website, a web page, and then it's a Google page, and then a Yelp page. It peels. It's like you're peeling an onion. You just move forward at your pace. You don't take out big loans. You don't get business partners. You just do it a little at a time. So it's been over 17 years, just moving at a very slow pace. Now my husband works with me. We work together. He was not able to reinvent himself from the car business. It was a little bit traumatic for him to go back into it after being at the top. So we work together. He uses all of his skills, business skills, to push us forward. But, I am most proud that I have a nonprofit called Lice Free Forever Charity. Because, Emma, what I saw out there is that with the lice, they were keeping the kids from school. They would not let a child go to school with lice. And a child would miss 3 weeks to a month of school. And they didn't know how to get it out of the hair. I can get rid of a bad case of lice in a couple hours and change someone's life. And so after much thought, I thought, you know what? I've got the manpower. I've got the money to pay the ladies. I had a very generous customer that gave me a sum of money. She's a lovely lady. She still supports my nonprofit, and I can help people. So I give coupons to school nurses, and I said, give these to the families that need it. And to change a child's life, I had kids that were eating lunch by themselves every day, day after day, because they had lice and bugs crawling through their hair. Nobody would sit with them. And I had teachers call me up and say, I want to pay for this kid. And I have the nonprofit. I said, they can go to one of these locations. So that was a huge blessing, being able to give back. And I think that's so important when you have a business. It's not about dollars. I mean, of course we need money to support ourselves. I had to support 5 children. And by the way, I put 5 kids through college picking bugs, and good colleges. So it can be done. So anyway, that's a joy. It's called Lice Free Forever Charity.
Well, and it's really nice that you're able to do that because I do know that sometimes people in the lower income neighborhoods can have a problem because they can't necessarily go to the doctor and pay for that or
Mm-hmm.
find, affordable solutions for them. And you are right, you are out of school for a very long time. I know my friend had it at one point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And not
Mm-hmm.
only did she shave her head, she shaved her daughter's head because it was the only way that they could get rid of it. And
Well,
I was
that's traumatic too.
wow. I was like, yeah, I was like, wow, that is extreme, but it worked,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Well, now they let the kids stay in school. So the kids walk around with lice, but still that's unpleasant, because the other kids, you get ostracized.
yeah.
You know, I don't think a child's childhood should be defined by head lice. And so many of them, that's all they remember. I have some ladies that work for me, and they said they had to walk around with lice. Their parents didn't take care of it. So it's such a strange little bug, but it affects everybody.
And speaking of the bugs, I mean, why are they such a big problem?
Well, the lice now, it's called super lice, and they're immune to over the counter treatments. So it really takes, I use oil, a thick oil that's non-toxic. I prefer non-toxic products, period. Because, it's going into your child's pores. It's going in their head to their brain. You don't want to use perithroms, which are neurotoxins, to kill lice if you don't have to. Much, much better. I use certain oils that are non-toxic. And then it's really about the skill of the technician. Our comb is a special comb that we sell in all of our locations. So that's what I prefer, to be able to get it out, because you can go several rounds with this lice with over-the-counter products, and then by that time they've spread it to all their friends.
So how does the oils work?
So the oil, it goes right on the scalp, and I massage it in, and it suffocates the lice. It stops them in their tracks, and then we hand comb, hand pick everything out. That's why the term nitpicker.
Yeah. I mean, now how do you get all that? How do you ensure that all the nits are gone? Do you still have to do like another application?
Well, we check the hair in about 5 to 7 days, just to make sure there's been no more exposure to lice. Um, it's important that we monitor the child at least for a week to make sure, because if they have lice, their friends probably have it. And like I said, 99% of lice is passed head to head.
Yeah. Now, what about dealing with it around your home? Because I know sometimes you have to like wash all your blankets. I mean, you have to kind of do that daily. What would be a routine to just make sure they're not all the way through your home and getting reinfected?
Okay, so I love this topic because lice are very misunderstood. This is not a bug that lives in your environment, period. So it's a head to head contact bug. 99% of lice is passed only head to head. The other 1%, I'm really not sure. When I went to the conference, I said, what's the 1%? And they couldn't really tell me, because the studies have all shown it's a child touching head to head with another child for at least 20 seconds. The home, put brushes and combs in a Ziploc in the freezer overnight. Okay. It's nice to have a clean home, Emma, but it doesn't impact lice.
Yep.
Okay. I like to tell people that some people, they're not going to stop cleaning. They want to clean. I'm like, okay, it's nice to have a clean home, but the lice don't care. They're not living there.
Interesting. Because I know I know back in the day that was the stigma. If you have lice, you're a dirty person. But bed bugs get the same thing, and honestly, a bed bug can come from having you're going on a trip and you put your luggage in the over in the
Oh,
under thing, and then those bugs get on you. You don't even
mm-hmm.
know it, you know. So it's like I don't think people think. I don't know why people would think that it's dirty because it's not necessarily dirty. It's contact, like you said.
Yeah, it's being in the wrong place at the wrong time. There was a funeral in a city nearby in Malibu. And, when you're at a funeral, it's a prolonged hug. There must have been 50 people that had lice after that because it's the head to head contact. I will say this bug is much easier to get rid of by a professional than bed bugs, termites, because even fleas, because they don't this bug doesn't live in carpets, it doesn't hibernate, it's like just on your head. So if you clear the hair and check the whole family, you're going to be okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It really is. And what are some of the services that you do offer?
So when somebody comes to my salon, one of my locations, they get the lice removed, and then I have prevention products. um, and what I tell people is mint. We have a mint spray. Wear your child's hair back, braided, bunned, so there's no flopping hair down. Because the hair, when it's down, the lice can crawl across from one head to the next. Mm. So you want your child's hair so that it's pulled back and sprayed with a mint repellent. And then we have a shampoo and conditioner with mint that you would be using weekly. And then combing, preventative combing. Preventative combing is just to make sure there's been nothing past. And so you'll get an education. I will tell you that once you have lice, you're more prone to get it. It's a scent they leave behind. So it's important that the parent doesn't ignore their child's hair for weeks on end, but they've got to be checking. Lice like to lay eggs above the ears, the nape of the neck, and the crown of the head. So to check the hot spots for the eggs are brown to beige. They're laid a 1/4 inch from the scalp, and they can't be moved off easily.
Interesting. Now, what about dogs? Do dogs have lice or
So
pets?
dogs get fleas, and
Okay.
it's the wrong body temperature. Okay, so they're not interchangeable. And also body lice is different. I mean, body lice can live in other parts of your body hair, which we won't mention. I don't do that. Head lice is strictly your hair, and sometimes they'll travel down to a beard. I've seen that one time, but that's where they hang out.
Interesting. So, are you looking to like franchise and have it in other places other than just California, or are you pretty much just staying to California?
Well, I am going to eventually go nationwide. I'm not sure about the franchise part of it yet. Um, you tend to lose control, and sometimes it's better just to keep it your own brand. Um, but I would love to be able to help people in every state. But I'm first covering California. This is my home state. Um, all my salons are within a couple hours of each other, so it's manageable. Um, Two of my daughters work with me and my husband. Um, and it's been great. I just try to keep my salon small and clean and cozy with a warm, inviting atmosphere. It's not clinical, but it's we try to make it fun and happy.
I like that because I mean you're already being infested by something. It's already embarrassing, and then you go inside there and it's a sterile environment that, you feel like you're going to a doctor, and that can't really make somebody feel too good.
Yeah, I love to laugh and make jokes and have fun. Um, I've been known to to laugh in situations that aren't funny because I'd rather laugh than cry. So I try to make it light and fun and talk to the parents and love to share my story with them. And like I said, I have a great celebrity following. I mean, this is something that happens to everybody. I'm writing a book now called Everybody Gets Lice, how to prevent it and how to take it out. Because I think I just want to make sure that we dispel all the myths that are out there. Um, People need to understand it's being at the wrong place, the wrong time. It's not hygiene. It's not any of those issues.
Yeah. Interesting. So we're about like 3 minutes away from having
Sure.
and end the segment and go to our commercial break. I would love for you to be able to tell everybody where they can find out more about you, find out a little bit more information that you have to offer, and of course your nonprofit.
Oh, thank you. So I'm at my website is www.myhairhelpers.com. And also, I have an Amazon store, My Hair Helpers, Shopify, myhairhelpersnaturalproducts.com. I have how to do it videos if you want to order the product and do it yourself. I have a TikTok, My Hair Helpers, Instagram, My Hair Helpers, Facebook, same. I have quite a good following on TikTok. I show you how to do it, talk about lice, and any questions. I do answer my own phone sometimes, in the evening if people have questions or they're not sure if it's lice or not. I've been known to FaceTime people
Mm.
and, you can hold the phone up to your child's hair. I mean, I love working with people. I just love people. I guess it's my gift. You have to care about people and be compassionate if you're in something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are all set here. I unfortunately have to go to a commercial break, but thank you so much for coming on, Amy. This has been an enlightening experience, which is important, and I
Uh-huh.
hope that any of my listeners will be able to kind of go find you and seek you out for some help if they need it themselves.
I would love that. I welcome that. Any questions, you can call me at 310-874-4550 or text me better yet and just say you heard me on Emma's show and anything you need. I welcome that contact and that relationship with you.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Unfortunately, we are done with this particular little segment here. We have to go to a quick commercial break. We got to pay bills. That's important too. And we will be right
Mhm.
back after this to close out the show. So don't go anywhere. We got more coming up.